Hello and welcome to my review of the Tyranid Malanthrope. This model will cost you £55. It's a Forge World model, hence why it's all in resin. It's such a spooky looking model. It's sort of very ominous. It's got this, for some reason, detailed base, which probably adds to the price, I would have thought. It's not really needed, in my opinion. Well, it kind of is needed to prop up the creature. I've just glued the detailed base onto a normal standard base, just because I like all my models to have this sort of uniformed round base really, or oval base or whatever. But I've stuck that on there, but you don't have to. I just think that it looks a bit thin if you just use the base that comes with it. I haven't glued it to the stand because if I did that, I'd have to spray the rod and then probably paint the rod like black or something, and it would just detract from the model. So I'm going to leave it as it is, and then I'm going to spray it and paint it separately, and then eventually glue it in. It's always difficult to do that because any kind of super glue that you use on the tip and on the base has that potential to ghost. Basically, this white sort of residue will build around it from the chemical reaction from the super glue. So just be wary of that if you're going to do that. Probably knew that already. I do think it's expensive for what it is. There is a good amount of detail on it. And it does have some great rules now that they FAQ'd it. But in terms of what you're getting, I mean, considering that a Dimacheron is £40 more than this, only £40 more, less than a price of Land Raider or Redemptor, you're getting a much bigger, much more impressive model. Yes, this one may well be better game term in terms of supporting your units. It may become like an invaluable kind of linchpin to your army. But model-wise, you're not getting nearly as much detail or the size and surface area that you do with the Dimacheron. And if you were a collector more than a gamer, I definitely recommend you save a little bit more money and get the Dimacheron first. But having said that, it is a very spooky, sort of odd-looking model, sort of like a cross between a Venomthrope and a Zoanthrope. All of these sort of toxic sacs and things, and kind of cabling. Little sort of Geiger-esque, I want to say, from Aliens, and even though it still retains this sort of Tyranid feel with this spiked carapace and these kind of fibre bundles under the epidermis, I want to call it that anyway. And it's got these long sort of fingers, which actually are very well detailed. They've got kind of like these like holes and things where I suppose it would poke that long claw through a skull or something and then just suck out the innards through these entry points along the bone of that claw. So there you go, very sort of ominous, foreboding kind of model. What I'll do now is I'll just go through. So what I'll do now, go home, Malanthrope, you're drunk. So I just, he's on a right wonk. The instruction book is crap, as always. It really is pretty terrible. All it does is just show you the parts and the Malanthrope built, much like the Dimacheron, although the Dimacheron definitely needs an instruction guide, whereas this one can sort of get away with it because, it's got 6 arms, 1 head, a tail and a body. And you don't need to have a degree in biology to kind of work out how this creature fits together. So yeah, poor instructions, but not really needed as much as sort of other models that they make. Bought a Warhound a couple of years ago, and that still came with the really terrible black and white photocopy instructions, and that model's now pretty much almost £400. So it's not just the little cheaper models that Forge will need to redo the instructions, it's the bigger, way more expensive ones too. So, but hopefully they'll remedy all that. And let's have a look at some size comparisons. So the first one I really wanted to do was with a Neurothrope model that I've recently reviewed. You can see just how much bigger this guy is to the Neurothrope. I mean, the tail alone is sort of much taller than the body. That's probably the best comparison I can make. I mean, the tail is longer than the whole of the body of the Neurothrope and the head itself. Maybe not this part of the Neurothrope, but still definitely bigger, hovers over Zoanthropes and Neurothropes. And like I said before, it really is kind of like the big daddy to them. It's a cross between like the Venomthropes and the Zoanthropes. It's more like the daddy for the Venomthropes, but without all the toxic lashes. But it does have all these spore chimneys, which are actually integral not only to the model, but they help explain why the rules are the way they are. So that's with a Neurothrope. Let's put it up against a Gene Stealer. So yeah, Gene Stealer swarming around this thing. It's going to tower over those. And a Warrior, yeah, it's going to tower over Warrior. And let's just move these two out of the way and go for something much bigger, like a Tyrannofex. Now the Tyrannofex it's still a little bit taller than a Tyrannofex height-wise, so it's got a lot of presence. It's not as tall as a Tyrannocyte, which is probably like the tallest Tyranid model, I'd say. But there you go. That little resin model is going to tower over a lot of your Tyranid big creatures. Let's just compare them with a couple of Imperial models. So I've got a Primaris Space Marine and a normal Space Marine. There you go. Definitely going to tower over those. I mean, it's probably 1, 2, 3, probably more than 3 times taller than a Space Marine, and a Primaris, yeah, 2.5 times, I'd say, of a Primaris Space Marine. So it's going to tower over any sort of Imperial sort of standard troop choices. Okay, so this is my part of the review where I will talk to you about all of the rules. You can find the rules for this Malanthrope in the Imperial Armour Index Xenos book from Forge World. I think the book is £15. It's just the index. They haven't released any sort of hardback, Tyranid books. I'd really like it if they did for all of the factions, actually, with pictures and lore and backstory and things to them, but either way, it is what it is. In the book, it actually displays its PowerPoints cost as 10. That's recently been FAQ, and I'm going to try and keep on top of the FAQs and things whenever I do like a book review or a model review. But obviously, if I do miss it, please do call me out and put it in the comments what it actually is. But basically, it was PowerPoint cost of a 10, which was very expensive, same as the Dimacheron. But it's recently dropped to a PowerPoint cost of 5. I don't think it changed points-wise though. A points cost in match play is 90 points, which is absolutely fantastic actually. Very, very cheap HQ unit, and that's what it is. It is in the HQ section. You can have 1 to 3 of them as well, which is brilliant. So its stat line is movement 5 inches, weapon skill 4+, ballistic skill 4+, strength of 4, toughness 5, 9 wounds, attacks 4, leadership 9, and a save of 5+. It contains 1 Malanthrope, and it can contain 1 additional Malanthrope, or 2, and each model is equipped with a grasping tail. That's it. Grasping tail is just the strength of the user, which is a 4, AP -1, damage D3. Nothing special, especially with the 5+ save and the weapon skill of 4+. Its abilities, it has Shadow in the Warp and Synapse. Obviously, Shadow in the Warp, it's going to be hard for Psychers to go up against it, and Synapse, 8 inches, will automatically pass morale tests, which is great. Shrouding Spores. Your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls for ranged weapons that target Hive Fleet models within 3 inches of any friendly Hive Fleet Malanthropes. This penalty is not cumulative, with the same penalty from Venomthropes. That's poor. It would have been nice if it was, but I sort of can see why it isn't. So -1 is pretty good. Especially if you're going against, generally low ballistic skill armies, such as Orcs or other Tyranids, or actually Imperial Guard, actually. And one could assume that includes the Malanthrope itself. So one wants to target that, you're -1 to hit. Enhanced Toxic Miasma. At the end of the fight phase, roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 1 inch of any Malanthropes. On a 4+, that unit suffers a mortal wound. That's alright. Each enemy unit, you get a 50-50 chance, mortal wound. What are the chances that you're going to have more than 1 enemy unit around it though? And also it's within 1 inch, so very, very short range. But it sort of makes up for it being crap in close combat, to put it bluntly. Prey Adaptation. If the last model in the enemy unit is slain within 1 inch of a Malanthrope in the fight phase, all of your models in your army with the same Hive Fleet keyword as the Malanthrope may reroll hit rolls of 1 against all models with any of the same faction keywords as the slain enemy. So that's interesting. You could really cheese this, I suppose. You could drop this little Malanthrope down in a Tyrannocyte, hopefully try and kill 1 unit, then the rest of your whole army gets to re-roll hits of a 1 against all models with any of the same faction keywords as a slain enemy. That's pretty good, and you could cheese that and drop 1 in, kill an enemy, and then you've got your re-rolling hit rolls of 1. Monstrous Brood. The first time the unit is set up on the battlefield, all its models must be placed within 6 inches of at least one other model in the unit. From that point onwards, they operate independently. Now, I don't know whether that works with dropping it from a Tyrannocyte, because it's technically you're not setting it up on the battlefield, so I think that you'd be alright, but please put it in the comments if you think that's wrong. So there you go. They are all the rules. When I first looked at them, I thought, yeah, that's quite a high power points cost, but it's great that it's been reduced down to 5. It makes it much more usable, and they're quite cheap, normal points costs too. When I first looked at them as well, I thought I was missing a trick, and I was missing a trick. The main reason why you'd get one is this shrouding spores. It's sort of a cheaper way, rather than committing a whole unit of Venomthropes. Put one of these near a big creature like a Tyrannofex or even an Exocrine, or any creatures within 3 inches, or any models within 3 inches. You're reducing those hit rolls by 1, which is great against those low ballistic skill. That's going to be the main reason why you take this one, to reduce those shots coming in. It does have a fair few wounds. It's not the best in close combat, although the prey adaptation is a nice little touch. It only has a save of 5+, doesn't have an invulnerable. So if I was facing one of these as a Imperial player, I'd try and understand what its goal was, whether it was to go for the prey adaptation or the shrouding spores. It would become very apparent based on what the opponents brought or what's on the battlefield at the start, and then either ignore it or take it out quickly. It's not going to be anything to worry about in terms of damage potential. It's just that buff and the ability to hit other units it's around. That's why it's there. If it's near the bigger units, instead of potentially wasting shots at those bigger units and not being able to hit them, it's probably best to focus your fire on this unit first. But yeah, you don't really need to worry too much about the damage that it's going to be dishing out on you from the model itself. Not like the Dimacheiron, where you really got to take that thing out as quick as possible and not let it eat anybody. Anyway, that is the end of my review. What do you guys think of the Malanthrope? I wasn't going to get this model, but I think a couple of people asked me to, and I always try and get a model or unit or product based on a request, and try and do it justice in my videos. So I'm very pleased to have picked this up, and obviously have done this video for you guys. So what do you think of this model? Do you use it in every game? What's the best sort of strategy you've found works best for it? Please do put it in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. For the Norn Queen.